I'm Jay Thomas, and welcome to Rides.
This show looks at anything that has an engine and a story told by the owners.
I'm Jay Thomas, and welcome to Rides. On Rides, we like to say if it's cool, has a story and an engine, hey, we want to show it off for you, and we do. But once in a while, we run into something that is so over the top, there is no way we can pass it up. We have to share it with you. And that's the case this week in Ocala, Florida, Big Daddy Don Garlits Museum. This place is amazing, and we're going to give you an inside private tour. Let's go check out Garlits Museum. Chuck?
Yes.
Jay Thomas.
Nice to meet you.
Hey man, thanks for having us.
No problem.
This is amazing, buddy.
Yes.
Wow. Now you are Don's nephew, right?
Correct.
All right, folks, we're gonna check out Big Daddy Don Garlits, the Garlits Museum in Ocala, Florida. This is cool, man. Well, let's take a walk, man. Let's take a look at what you got. Walk us through some of this.
So if you come into the museum, the first car you're gonna see is Swamp Rat 1.
Okay.
This car was built by him at his home in his front yard when they lived down in Tampa. And he used to upset the neighbors when he was building it because the torch that he had back then would kill the power in the neighborhood when he was using it. So the neighbors would get upset because they would lose power. But Swamp Rat 1 is his favorite car because it's the first car that he set an actual world record when he drove it down the track in Brooksville in 1957. And then this is the first car he won his first national event in 1958 at the National Championships in Kansas.
And this is it right here.
This is it.
This is history. Man, look at this stuff.
Yes.
Now, Don, he is the one that the credit goes to for moving the engines from the front to the back of the
Correct.
dragsters properly.
Right, Swamp Rat 13 in 1970 obviously is the dragster that blew up and cut off half his right foot. What most people don't know is that shrapnel went up into the stands and actually hit a child in the arm. So for a year he developed Swamp Rat 14 and the rear engine dragster. It took him a while, they were testing and the car would never go straight, it'd always go off the road and that. And he goes, you know, the steering, there's something wrong with the steering. Connie Swingle goes, can't be, we have it set up the same way we had it on the front engine dragsters. And he goes, well, it's not a front engine dragster.
It's a rear now.
And so they came back and they adjusted the steering on it, slowed it down, went out the next day, and it just went straight down the track.
He changed the sport forever.
Yes.
Turbine car?
Yes, this was an experimental car. His hope was that he would be able to go faster with them. They didn't quite work out that way, so he didn't dismantle them, he just kept them and put them on display. We have all the racers, you know, assorted racers. Connie Coletta, we have his front engine car here, but this is the one that he was having problems getting down the track in, and he asked Don, hey, can you get in and find out what's going on? And this is the one that he set a record in, driving Connie Coletta's car.
Where are we going to now?
So we're going into the second room that was added on when we ran out of room in this building. So in here we have gassers from Barbara Hamilton. She passed away a couple years ago. We have K.S. Pittman's gasser. And then next to K.S. Pittman's car, we have Bruce Larson's, one of his first cars that his USA Chevelle car.
Wow.
So
this history is amazing. What's it like being Don's nephew? And this is what you get to do every day, Chuck.
It's nice to, you know, be able to tell people, look, this is the history, this is where it's at.
Wow.
We do have a lot of the original cars from the beginning. Coming up, we have one of the original Bean Bandit cars.
This is an original.
Yes, it's the original Bean Bandit car.
Wow. Look at that chop. Damn. I'm guessing you wouldn't get too far down the highway before you got pulled over in this thing, if this thing is streetable.
Well, it was originally driven by Jim Little.
This was driven?
Yes.
Come on.
With a top speed of 163 miles per hour. This is the Dart. When Funny Cars began racing in that, he had Emery Cook driving this car. The other drivers started complaining, it's not a true funny car. It doesn't have the full body and everything. So eventually NHRA said, no,
not gonna happen.
You can't use it.
And I know just over 200 miles an hour this thing would go, right?
Right.
Your uncle was a maniac, in a good way,
Yes.
good way. Gosh, some great stuff in here, Chuck.
Yes.
I'm telling you folks, you're down here, Ocala, Florida, anywhere in Florida, come to this museum.
So the cars here, this, you know, when they started racing on the street, these were it. And Charlie Hogan was the king in the Tampa Bay area. He was the king of it. Nobody beat him. This was what he raced on the streets with. This is what Don began racing on the streets with.
I just can't say it enough. The history is just
Right.
you can't wrap your head around it.
So this car is Swamp Rat 31.
This is 31.
This is 31.
And this is the one that went airborne, right? More from the amazing Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing when we come back on Rides.
So this car is Swamp Rat 31.
This is 31.
This is 31.
And this is the one that went airborne, right?
This is the one, well, he had Swamp Rat 30 and Swamp Rat 31. Swamp Rat 30 is the streamliner introduced in 1986 that everybody just went head over heels for at the Gator Nationals, and then he was the first one to go over 270 at the Gators when he debuted it and that. He flipped that car that year in Englishtown, New Jersey. We talked about how crazy he is. Steve Evans was interviewing him after the flip and asked him if he was going to be back at the track, and he said, I can't rebuild this car. I'm not that crazy. So he had acknowledged this. Swamp Rat 31 followed in 1987, and he was racing in Spokane, Washington, and with Swamp Rat 30, the flip happened at the beginning of when he left the line and went up just because it got airborne. Swamp Rat 31 happened at the end of the drag strip near the finish line where the car went up, blew over, came crashing down. He broke a couple ribs and everything, and then he stopped racing for a while after that. You know, his career is retirement, come back, retirement, come back, retirement, come back.
Kind of like a lot of rock stars. They like to do that.
We do have a special section he has for his brother Ed, who passed away in 2020, which Ed was his little brother. But these are all Ed's cars. And there was never a Swamp Rat 2, like the number 2, because Ed was racing cars.
Oh, there it is right there.
Yes, so this is a special area he set up for his brother. You know, his brother was very good in gas. He was a state champion for several years in gas.
These things just look wicked, like they can just haul arse. Wow. Now, is that really Jungle Jim?
Yes, we have Bo Weevil, we have Jungle Jim, we have the last Only Funny cars right here, Shirley Muldowney.
Look at that. These famous racers, they just, hey, I want to donate my car, I want to display my car in Don's museum.
Most of the stuff the museum has gotten has been through donations.
That's cool that these world famous, and they're celebrities, man. Even if you're not into racing, you know the names.
Right.
Racing is American history. We grew up with it, you know? I mean, it's in our blood.
We have Shirley Muldowney's last pass car. That was her 2003. This is the dragster that she retired with. This is the last pass dragster, yes. Wow. And then next to that is the Swamp Rat 37 electric car. That's the first.
That's the electric.
That's Swamp Rat 37. That is the electric car that he set the first record at 174. When you come back into the main building from this room, you'll see the great Tom McEwen.
The Mongoose. This is what, 70s? Is this one?
This is his 76, 82.
Yep.
Then we have Tommy Ivo's twin engine dragster here.
Oh, these are all in fantastic condition.
Yes, we have volunteers that come in and dust cars and all that. We have the original Speed Sport.
The original.
Yes,
Real
the original
deal.
one, yes, because
It's unbelievable, man.
Don has pointed it out. In some of the photos, you can see the imperfection in the roll bar, and that same imperfection is in the roll bar on the underside where it's bumpy.
Yep.
This is the first rail job, the Bug. This is 1941. And you look at some of these photos, this car was going well over 100 miles per hour.
This is crazy. It's nuts.
And if you look at some of these photos in here, he's not wearing any helmet. He's just got goggles on. He's wearing a T-shirt, and the only thing was a little lap belt holding him on.
You know what? With all the safety gear now, the helmet, I still wouldn't do it. I like fast cars, cool cars, but nah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That ain't happening. What's behind us, Chuck?
So this was a car that he built to go on to Bonneville with. It was built in 1988 and it's called Swamp Rat 33, but this never went down a drag strip. It went on Bonneville and he raced it on Bonneville and got up to 220 miles per hour in it.
And think about that. This was back when? 19 what?
88.
Going that fast back then was just
On
unbelievable.
salt. You know, we have a lot of Hall of Famers, the Pandemonium, Bob and Shirley Sullivan, and we have their Hall of Fame trophy in it because the family, you know, they passed away, but the family requested that their trophy and that be displayed with the cars.
What better place to, to remember them, you know?
We also have Chris Karamessinas in here, the Golden Greek. We have a couple of his cars in here. You know, this is his wedge car, you know, when the wedge cars were popular in that.
This is actually Shirley's dragster.
This is also the car they used in the movie Heart Like a Wheel.
This is it right here.
This is it.
I'm sorry, I have to go in here. I'm getting pulled into here. And this is, oh my God.
This is an engine room.
Oh, I'm a little woozy. Holy smokes, are you kidding me? Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing down here in beautiful Ocala, Florida. There's so much to see, so we'll have more when we come back on Rides. Chuck, I'm just letting you talk because I'm just like in awe of what is in here. And of course, this is unbelievable.
Yes.
This is crazy. This is actually Shirley's dragster.
This is the 1980 car that she won her second world championship in. This is also the car they used in the movie Heart Like a Wheel.
This is it right here.
This is it. Don came in possession of this because somebody called and said, hey, this car's sitting on a studio backlot.
No.
It's sitting outside.
Really?
So he went out to California and he purchased it and brought it back here. You know, there was a rivalry between them when they both were racing, especially in the 70s. Her crash in '84 changed everything.
Yeah.
You know, she was very lucky to walk away from that and eventually return in 1986. But that crash in '84, they kind of buried the hatchet and became very good friends.
So this thing's just sitting out there, just rotting away on a back lot in Hollywood.
So Don got it, brought it back here. It's on display.
Is this the condition it was in when he found it out there?
Yes. We haven't done anything to.
And that's fantastic because you're looking at this going, this is the history right here.
Right.
It's untouched. And what with the helmets?
This is Shirley Muldowney's helmet collection from the beginning of her career all the way to the end. She didn't want her helmets to be separated and.
They belong together.
Right. So she called Don and said, hey, look, I'd like to sell them to you, but I want to make sure they stay all together. They don't go anywhere and people can see them. And Don said, we'll do it.
That is fantastic.
And she has signed every one of them with the year that she wore them.
All right, Chuck. I know there's some other stuff over there that you want to show us, but before we do that, I'm sorry, I have to go in here. It's just I'm getting pulled into here, and this is, oh my God.
This is an engine room.
Oh my God, I'm a little woozy. Holy smokes, are you kidding me?
Most of the engines in this first row are actual engines that he raced through the years. This wall was something he started when Aunt Pat became ill and he wasn't racing. He began putting these together and rebuilding them and then eventually built this case and put them all on display.
You guys are drooling right now, aren't you? Yeah, get some of that, huh? Okay, I know there were a couple more things you wanted to show us.
This was built in 1978, and this is after he had gone to Vietnam and done some recruiting for the Navy and that. And the Navy said, you know what, we're gonna sponsor you. We're gonna be your main sponsor in that. He's like, great, and they were gonna give him $25,000, $30,000 to be the main sponsor.
That's good money back then, yeah.
So when he originally took this car out, it didn't have anything on the sides. There was no writing on it. The only thing on it was the Dodge and the God Is Love on the cow. And the plan was the Navy was gonna come out, they were gonna put all the decals on it and unveil it at the starting line. The Navy came out, saw the cross and said, you gotta take that off or we're not gonna sponsor you. And he goes, well, I guess you're not gonna sponsor me. Well, this car for the next 2 seasons ended up winning him the most national events won him the most money. In those 2 years, he won over $660,000. We call this Slingshot Alley. We have Don Perdome,
Look at these.
Gary Cochran, Chris Karamessinis, Pete Robinson, Connie Coletta, Greer and Donovan, John Wiebe.
Beautiful. Well, I got to tell you, Chuck, this has been absolutely amazing. I know you and I are going to sit down later on in the show and talk a little bit about how this museum came. It's a great place. The public is welcome. And when we come back, we're going to sit down and do a roundtable with Chuck. He is the nephew of Big Daddy Don Garlits, and man, when you hear the history on how this museum started, it's going to blow you away. More rides coming up. Hey, we spent years taking care of our rides, and we want to keep them safe in our hangouts and garages. Is yours completely safe from the elements? SNT Stopper guarantees a tight seal for your hangout and garage so your ride stays protected. Keep your ride and hangout protected with SNT Stopper.
Hi, Jeff here with SNT Stopper. Are gaps in your garage getting snow on the floor? Chilly winds blowing through your doors? Stop it with SNT Stopper Premium Door Sills. Our Kevlar reinforced door sills can cut out the cold and stop the snow while saving up to 40% on your heating costs. SNT Stopper Premium Door Sills are easy to install, made in the USA, and comes with a 25-year warranty. Visit snrtstopper.com today. Snrt happens. Stop it.
I'm Jay Thomas, and welcome back to Rides. Every once in a while, we run into a great place, a special place, and that's what we ran into down here in Ocala, Florida, in Big Daddy Don Garlits Museum of Drag Racing. And we had the opportunity to hang out with his nephew, Chuck, and we couldn't leave here without you and I just sitting down and talking, because this place, Chuck, is just amazing, man. What your uncle has done for the sport over the years, and how he's keeping it alive and sharing everything with people. Where did the name Big Daddy come from?
So Big Daddy came from an NHRA announcer. He was in racing, and he had the girls with him and that. So they called him Daddy at the racetrack because, you know, he always brought the girls with him, and Aunt Pat was with them. And he had been having trouble getting the times he wanted in that. So eventually on one run, he made the pass. He made those times he wanted in that. And the NHRA announcer goes, well, I guess Big Daddy has a handle on this track. And
that
Big Daddy
sticks.
stuck.
Yep.
So he's registered it. It's, you know, it's his. In 1970s, he and Aunt Pat were over in England visiting, and over there they saw a car museum, and he's like, you know, this is something we should do. And so they came back, and they built the original museum in Seffner next to their house. And the only people coming were family and friends, and that was it. They were the only ones who knew about it.
Yeah.
So in the early 80s, Aunt Pat asked him, what are you going to do? We have this white elephant over here. We've built this building to live off of once you stop racing and that, and we don't get anybody. So he's like,
because back then, once the racing's over, I mean, that's it. There's no sponsorships. There's none of that. There's no, it's over. So this is our bread and butter, and nobody's showing up, like you said.
Right. So he goes, well, why don't we move it to the interstate? So they got in the car and drove up 75 and stopped in Brooksville because he thought Brooksville was going to be the key area because, you know, the sport, that's where, you know, everybody raced in the 50s. That was in Brooksville.
That was a hot spot,
So they're going around with the realtor and looking at property, and the prices were just beyond what they had. So they got up the next day and started north again, and they were getting off this exit and to get gas. And Aunt Pat looked out the passenger window, saw the property, and said, that's it.
This is right where it sits right now.
Yes.
She's like, this is where we need to be.
That's it. That's the property. And she was telling him, that's the property. And he's like, we don't even know if it's for sale or anything, you know? So they got off, drove around to the main road, 475A here, and out in front of the property was some bushes and that. And underneath the bush was a small sign that said, for sale with a phone number on it.
No, really?
So He writes.
So they didn't even see that for sale sign.
Yeah,
Pat just thought, we're getting this land.
Right. As they're exiting, getting off she saw it and said, that's it. That's the property. They prayed that night, asked God for guidance and help. If this is what you want, you will find something. But if this is something you don't want us to do, and it's your will that we stay in Seffner, we understand, but we just would like some help with this.
We don't want that guidance, yeah.
So he goes over there, dials the phone number, and the lady answers, "This is Shirley, what do you want?" Then he goes, I'm Big Daddy, and I'm Don Garlits, and I'm here, you have property here at 475 in the interstate. And she goes, "Yeah." So he goes, "Well, what do you want for it? I'm interested." And she told him, "I want $80,000 in cash." He said, "I want it. Oh, I got the money." And she goes, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" And he goes, "Well, I'm going to put a museum on it." She goes, "Well, you realize it's zoned agricultural, not commercial." He goes, "Well, I'll go to the county commission and get that changed." The chairman stops him and goes, "Mr. Garlits, we're going to give you your permit and that, but we don't think you're going to make it. There's nothing down there. There's nothing at that interstate. It'll never grow or anything like that." The farm that's to the south of us was owned back then by the DuPont family.
Oh.
They offered him $1 million for the property.
He just paid 80 for it, and they were offering him $1 million. And evidently he said no, because here we sit. That is sticking by your guns.
Yeah, he's the type of person you can't tell him he can't do something, because then he's 100 times amplified.
I don't think any of this would be possible if it wasn't for him, what he did for the sport, and just his stick-to-itness. It's like, I'm going to do this, whether it's, racing or it's building this museum or, doing the Hall of Fame. I'm going to do it, and it's going to get done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, big thank you to him and everybody that works here and helps out. I mean, you're keeping the history alive. And again, thanks for being on Rides.
Not a problem.
Amazing.
Hey, if you have a cool story that involves a car, a motorcycle, a boat, heck, anything with an engine, we want to hear about it. Just go to rideswithjthomas.tv, send us a picture with your story, and your ride could be featured on the show. And don't forget to visit the merch shop where you can get all your Rides gear. From everyone here at Rides, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Like 800 degrees out here. Are we ready now?
Nope.
Come on. That's the case down here in beautiful Ocala. I want a burger. What?
No, you're good.
Oh, all right.
Just looking.
3, 2, 1. Hey, we want to show it off. We do. That's, God, it's the heat. So you want me to start and do the whole thing over?
Yeah.
Of course you do.